This week on Unapologetic Uplift.
So I have spent the better part of my life making New Year's resolutions that I always fall back on.
Hey, it's Unapologetic Uplift. That's okay with me if you're mad about it.
I just think sometimes life gets a bit much and I need to scream into a pillow or go out for a walk or just get a freaking hug.
Men typically have a harder time expressing feelings, and it's because of the way society's set up. You don't have room or time to have your feelings. That is not okay anymore.
Simple act of being aware of your feelings, being able to label them in itself is massive. That awareness of being able to be like, wait a minute, how do I feel is so powerful.
Being human is friggin' hard. I need to let my feet sit in the creek and let the water just go over my toes. That's what you do when you're hurting. You seek attention. Everyone remembers me for my trauma. In high school, my sister died in a car accident my junior year. And everyone remembered that, as they should.
We're explorers. That's what I call us.
This is how we change the world. Not that we're distracted by what's on the news and talking about how this and that and what that's doing to that person. What's happening right next door?
And that's why I do what I do, because even if what I do pisses somebody off, it makes somebody happy.
Get ready to rise above the noise and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift, the podcast that's all about keeping it real and helping you live your best life. Buckle up. Get ready to learn, grow, and evolve with us on Unapologetic Uplift. New episodes released weekly.
Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift. I'm your host, Kim Staples, joined by my beautiful co-host, Ianthe Morrow, and our wonderful guest, John. Please pronounce your last name for us.
Wandzilak, or as I tell everyone when they ask how it's pronounced, I say carefully.
Yeah.
Well, I think I can relate. Yeah.
Totally. There's a reason I got you to pronounce it, because I'm not in the business of butchering people's names. Welcome.
I'm in the business of making them feel like they did butcher my name, so yes.
So it was a good call on my part. So we always start off the podcast by setting an intention on a candle. So Ianthe, I'm going to hand it over to you to do that.
I am lighting a candle with the intention that I really shine a light on what our dear guest, John, is here to share about today. And that our ears, everyone's ears and hearts are open to what it is that he's sharing, because I know that it comes from a very vulnerable and deep place. And I am very appreciative that you're here with us today, John. And so it is.
And so it is. Yes, we are here for all of the vulnerability. So
go ahead, Kim.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, John, why don't you tell us about why you're here? We invited John on to share something that he is putting out into the world. And why don't you just go ahead and tell us a bit about that?
So I have spent the better part of my life making New Year's resolutions that I always fall back on. This year, I set a very realistic goal, and I said on January 1st, I'm going to step away from social media. I have been focusing on my social media platforms for the last 4 years. Grew enough to where I'm starting to gain some traction, but I started losing myself and my art, so I needed to pull myself back. And the plan was to take something my following has fallen in love with, my character Bolt Voltage, and really put energy into his story, why he is who he is, what he is, and why he does what he's doing. So I thought of this weird idea to come up with an origin story instead of just doing, everyone wanted me to do a picture book of all the paintings I've done to him. And I thought if a picture's worth 1,000 words, let's use those words. So I took my therapy that I've been doing for the last 2 years, figuring out my stress, my anxiety, my triggers, my depression, and things I do to self-soothe instead of taking medication because I don't want to take medication. Instead of checking into a mental hospital because I don't think I need to be on lockdown. I just think sometimes life gets a bit much and I need to scream into a pillow or go out for a walk or just get a freaking hug. So the book is about Bolt, and Bolt exists on the planet Earth at a time where humans no longer exist. We've left the planet, and robots have inherited the Earth, and they're tracking the progress as the planet heals itself in a post-human world, which is, I mean, we're a very invasive species. So as Bolt is walking around his sector that he's inspecting, something happens and he glitches into emulating emotions, which doesn't really sway with his logic processors. And he has to learn how to function with human emotions. And because his robot has an infinite wealth of internet knowledge from humans in the past, he's able to find self-soothing techniques in his own system and start applying them. And I use the book to pictographically draw, literally hugging a tree to be in the moment, or making silly decisions when you're in a panic, hiding from dangerous situations in less than hospitable environments. So the book dives into all that stuff that I learned about for the last 2 years and puts it in a very digestible, open format for anybody from probably like age 11 and up.
I like to write sometimes as things come to me as our guests are speaking, and I wrote a couple of things. One is the metaphor for your healing is this character Bolt Voltage. Would you say that's true?
So at first, absolutely not. He started off as an art project. I was in a bad spot because my wife was actually on a vacation out of country, and I was dealing with the first time of being separated from her after like COVID, being constantly together. Like that symbiotic rip kind of hurt. And I created him. But as I started working on his story, that's when I started realizing that I'm putting myself into the body of this robot. And I'm not just telling his story, I'm telling my own story through him.
That's beautiful. And I love that you said self-soothing. Sometimes you just need a walk or a hug, and that you're not willing. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but Kim and I have now, we actually devoted an entire episode to why we personally are against psych meds, our personal experience with those negative experiences and what we feel about that. We did a whole episode on it. And then we've touched on it a few times in other episodes too. So the fact that I think both of us, if any of you are watching this and not just listening to the audio, but watching, you probably saw Kim and I have a face when you said, I don't want to be on psych meds. I don't want to be on lockdown. I want to work through this stuff. And sometimes that means taking a walk or just getting a hug. I love that so much. And it really resonates with what Kim and I talk about a lot. So it's no accident that you're here. And your character is I just want to say it's really needed. What you're talking about is really needed. And I think you probably know that, but also you're humble, because you did mention in the beginning that you've had this social media presence, you're working on that, and you stepped away. I just want to say out loud, can you just tell so that our audience understands, you really understand how to blow up on social media. You have an account with how many followers on Clapper?
So
I just want people
Clapper,
to understand, like, yeah.
Clapper is currently sitting at 215.4 thousand followers, which I think by the standards actually equates to a TikTok 30,000, which is still an impressive number based on,
Yes.
We know how that platform works. But really, I've even started looking at my numbers on my other platforms, okay? YouTube, in the last year, I grew YouTube to almost 2,000 followers in a year, all right? And by simply being consistent and slightly inflammatory. Sometimes you got to say the fucked up thing just to get someone's attention and then come back. I mean, I've never started a video saying Donald Trump is 100% right and then no, I would never do something that stupid. But I would say, hey, you ever stand in a line and your ass itches and you just don't know what to do about it? That's the kind of hook that I'll use in a video. But that's what I did on Clapper that got people to say, who is this idiot? I make people question my intelligence, and then they go to my page. They see my content. They see they think I'm an idiot at first, and then they start to realize I'm actually not. I'm actually pretty smart. I let on to be the fool, but it's only so that I can impress you in the end.
I love it. It's working for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Because I know that it's not necessarily, oh, look, but I love that. So this is a whole other thing now you're doing. You're departing from just the getting people to follow you, getting people to listen to you on social media platform with inflammatory fun. And by the way, we all need to laugh, and we all need to be self-deprecating a bit and laugh at ourselves too. And that's part of being unapologetic. Mm-hmm. But this character, to me, there's a seriousness in this because I feel it's so needed for us to be able to look at ourselves. So tell me, what is one lesson? I really want to know if there's one lesson that you want Bolt to give to people that they take away to potentially change their lives for the better, what would that be?
Being human is friggin' hard. But a song I recently fell in love with again, all right? The line is perfect. If Rome was built in a day, then this isn't that complicated. So that's what I want to teach, is that really, when you're in a mind fuck, unfucking your mind is really sometimes that easy. Yes, there are some people that need that medication, but really, I don't. I need to go for a walk. I need to let my feet sit in the creek and let the water just go over my toes. I need to go out with my dogs. I need to sit with my wife and watch TV, smoke a little weed.
Yeah, I wish that all people would try these things before just jumping onto medications. They're so quickly prescribed, and
especially in children.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. And how often do we see doctors prescribing going out into nature, regulating your nervous system, even just something as simple as hydrating? But as you mentioned, feeling the water run over your toes, acknowledging and feeling into your body, getting out of your head into the body.
So when I first met Beyonce about a year ago, I had just really gotten into meditation and grounding, and I really preached that. I preached that like I am at church on Sunday, okay? That literally just the mindful meditation of just sitting there and just closing your eyes and taking in, no matter where you are, you can find something. It's actually one of the reasons why for the new release we have coming up, I spent the last 2 weeks painting sensory rocks with my character on it so that people can keep a piece of nature in their pocket. So when things get a little too spiky, they can put their hand in their pocket and they can just grind their hand on it and feel nature giving back a little bit.
I love that too. I remember I have a mentor who, and by the way, I think we've known each other now for 2 years at least.
Yes,
but
right.
I'm not great with linear time, but I think it's been 2 years. Anyway, I remember a mentor telling me that I was feeling really like I was spinning, and she said, you just need to ground. You're not grounded. And she said, grab a rock and put it in your pocket, walk around with it all day. And I remember that really helping me. And I have given that advice to others too. So it's really cool that you have these rocks with your character. And another thing about your character and about storytelling in general is that we are constantly bombarded with ways to be distracted. Case in point, politics that you brought up, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, what it used to be, if you go back in history, not even too long ago, the way that we learned things throughout history as human beings is through storytelling. That's how we learned what our ancestors did. That's how we learned about why all the questions that one asks, where are the answers to those? And they would come in storytelling. And even Grimm's fairy tales and stories for children they seem really, some of them, inappropriate and scary. And if you look at some of those early childhood stories, you go, wow, that is violent. Like they cut off the feet to fit in the shoes in Cinderella, like stuff like that. But if you look at and I'm getting a little bit esoteric here, but if you look at the work of Rudolf Steiner, who created something called the Waldorf School and something called Theosophy, which is a philosophy for raising children and for being a good human being, he talks about how it's so important because it all has to do with the shadow side. And that's the work that also Kim does. And to circle back to everything, you mentioned what you were talking about, John, about how you were going through tough times and it was hard for you when your wife went away. And what you're talking about also could be the shadow side. We all have it. We don't want to look at it necessarily because it's not cute and it doesn't feel good. It's not comfortable. And that's why a lot of people want to medicate it away. But the shadow side, if we are able to look at it. So through storytelling, this is going back to your whole thing of bolt voltage. You now have a way for people to have a cathartic moment of realizing some things about themselves and about their journey as a human being through the eyes of this adorable character. And I would love for you also, tell me if any of that makes sense, and then to show us a picture of Bolt as well, because I want people that are on the visual to get to see it.
Absolutely. So I definitely agree with you 100% on that, because Bolt really is, like I said, an emulation of my own mental health. And you're right. People do really fall in love with them. I have a whole bunch of them right here, actually. I brought this one in from the living room. This one I call Mr. Bolt Veneer. This was a salvage canvas. A neighbor was tossing this painting out. So I brought it home and I just painted my robot in the back. He's got um, a little vase with flowers, and he's actually approaching like a veranda with wine and chairs and stuff in the actual painting.
Amazing.
But here's a little closer picture of Bolt and his little robot dog, who does not make a debut in the first book. But I've started working on book 2, and me and the wife have discussed the path. I can confirm this far that we've agreed that there will be a animal companion joining the story in the second book.
Amazing. And these are coloring books, correct?
That is the beautiful thing. So yes, it's a storybook that I tell everyone it's a storybook that begs you to color it, because all right, so trade secret, I'm a little bit on the lazy side. I wanted to put the book out. I told you, January. All right. And it's now April. All right. That's 4 months. That's a quarter of a year. That's how much my brain could give, my ADHD could give to put out a book. I didn't think I'd have it in me to color in an illustrated book and write a story too. So I said, we're going to really lean into art here. It's going to be a black and white book that tells you to color it in, because Kim's going to color it in. She's going to use pinks and purples for her sky, but Beyonce, she had a bad day at work, so maybe her sky's gray and with a hint of blue. And maybe there's a guy down the street, his might have green skies because he's been eating beans all day. I don't know. But I see all of the opportunities for people to now, again, tap into that mindful meditation of coloring in these detailed drawings. So yeah, I don't call it a coloring book because I feel like when you say it's a coloring book, it sounds like a kid's toy. But it is a utility story that is good for multimedias. It definitely brings out the artistic, and I even put a QR code in the end of the book that links to a new Facebook page I recently created called Bolt's Dream Masters. And it gives you 2 blank pages at the end so you can give Bolt dreams that people could then share on the Facebook page, and they can anticipate the next book coming out. Also, a place for everyone to converse about why they made what they made, why they colored what they colored, and start some conversations. So self-soothing turns into group therapy.
Oh, I love that so much. So interactive. And
Yes.
yes, for coloring, I have used coloring in adult coloring books to help me be
Mm-hmm.
present as well, because it's such a great activity that causes you to sit still and
And
focus on
focus.
something. So if meditation feels out of reach for you, as it does for many people that are just trying to start practicing, a coloring book is really a perfect solution because you can just sit down and focus on that and just learn to quiet your mind and then start practicing without the book. But such a beautiful place to start.
I love it. And I wrote community because what you're creating is a community. So it's so much bigger. And that's something we all crave. You mentioned also being alone and having so much alone time with your wife during COVID, which a lot of us experienced. And what I've seen now is it's enough time has passed since then. Everybody's been getting out, doing their thing. But now I feel there's this need to come back and find our tribes, find our communities. So this is just feels like it's so right. And I've watched you through the last couple years or so where I've seen you dip into times of, I know you've expressed out loud self-doubt, John. I know you have. I know that you've
Mm-hmm.
expressed out loud times of your suffering. And so for anyone listening that or watching or both that feels like, how do I get, you're obviously so inspired. You have created something so inspirational. Do you remember a moment when this sparked, like you realized I can do this?
Yeah. So ironically, the big thing behind this was publishing. I drew a coloring book for the creators on Clapper 4.5 years ago. I self-published the Kindle Direct Publisher. It sold maybe 20 copies, which is great, but it didn't do great and it flopped. So this time I put out my personal savings and I hired a publisher to help me put this book out. When I started realizing this thing has actual got some spark to it though, was after we put that money out, me and the wife debated for weeks because I wanted to start a Kickstarter to do that. She didn't want to put more on me. I created it while she was sleeping one day. I created a Kickstarter, put it out there, came up with some really good freaking perks, including but not limited to all the original pages I drew. Anybody who picks up the top tier, they get one of those pages sent to them. So that's,
Wow.
physical art as a contribution to the book. So So when I listed that on the first week, we are now sitting at 45% funded. Okay. We've been live for 30 days. I've got 33 days left in the campaign. So 27 days. We're already at 45%. So I'd say like week one of that, when I started seeing people, I had 3 people purchase the top tier, which is a page for the book. Seeing people want my actual physical art. They don't just want me to put out a book. They want to own the drawing. I think that's when I started feeling the actual spark of, wow. Now I'm just trying to find more sparks to get that other 55%.
Yeah. So tell us about Kickstart. I am not super familiar with it. I've heard of it, but I would love to learn more. And I'm sure our audience is also curious.
So Kickstarter is a crowdfunding website, much like GoFundMe, whereas GoFundMe is for personal stuff like, okay, a flood came in, wiped out the house. You go to GoFundMe for that. When
Yeah.
you're starting a project, a lot of authors, video game creators, small startup businesses, like if you're starting a candle business, you can go to Kickstarter and select your budget as low as $500 and as much as I've seen some for $110,000.
Sure.
And you just start sharing your link out there, and people who believe in your project, they donate money. Now, they don't donate money just for the goodness of their heart. You have to give them something in return. No one wants anything for free. So I have little things set up in mine. For a $5 donation, you get a thank you email from me. And anybody who donates $1 or more gets their name on the acknowledgements page on the website when we launch the book. I'm going to have a full page of all the backers, and the link will be under all the backers' names. So you have to go through all the backers' names to get to buy the book at the lowest possible price off my website. Or you can go to Amazon.
Awesome.
But I didn't want to put the page into the book because that would delay the release of the book. I'd have to add that to the manuscript. So I said the website works just fine. And then if I do the Kickstarter allows you to collect money past the date too. So
Okay.
if you get to, my budget is $3,700 currently. If I make that $3,700 by the last second of the last day, anybody who donates after that, I could still get that money. But if I don't make the 100% by the end date, all money that has been put on hold in everyone's accounts gets refunded to them, and the project gets reset, and I have to start a new Kickstarter campaign and hope that one is publicized better. And people still
Okay.
want to. So it's called an all or nothing campaign for a reason.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter gives you the opportunity, but it also doesn't take money from anybody until you have 100% proof that your people believe in you and you have that project going. I've seen some projects that have a $37,000 budget and they've been crowdfunded 3,000% of that. I'll let you
Wow.
do the math in your head on that. I would be happy with 100%. If we go more, cool. I would just like to, because all that money gets to go into the book. We're going to use that for marketing, Facebook ads. I looked into maybe a billboard, but they're way expensive. It's like $3,500 for a month for a billboard alone. So
Yeah,
that'll
it
be the
is
next
very
one.
pricey. That's so cool.
I'm so
That's
excited
what
about it.
Kickstarter's about.
Yeah, and I actually have a quick thing. Years ago when Kickstarter first started, I'd had my candle company for a few years and I wanted to put out some roll-on perfumes. And I actually did a Kickstarter to fund the roll-on perfumes and was funded 100%. And it was how I got to bring out the roll-on perfumes, which I still have today. And I think that was maybe in 2013, 2012. I can't remember. It was a while ago.
Yep.
But I really
So
enjoy
cool.
it. And then I actually helped a friend also do a Kickstarter. So they're wonderful. And I just can't help it. I keep thinking as you talk, I keep seeing Bolt as alive. You've done an incredible job in creating a character that feels relevant, like it's always existed. And that's when I know things are really good, because I've seen other things you've done and I'm like, I can appreciate that, but it doesn't have this same impact. There's something different about this one. And I would venture to say, being on Unapologetic Uplift, that it really has to do with your willingness to tap into some places that have been dark and hard for you, and those vulnerable places, and then allowing that character to speak through that stuff that's making it so relatable.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Relatable, right? We can all relate
You
to
ladies have
struggling with our
Adidas or
emotions.
TikTok accounts?
Yeah,
Do we have what?
I
What?
do.
Do you have TikTok account, Yante?
I do that I never look at, but for you, I will.
Okay. Well, no. The reason I ask is because a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, I was on TikTok swiping in lives. And you had a lot of people that were just literally just sitting there crying, sitting in front of the camera, just
Mm.
crying.
Yeah.
And that was back before there was a filter that made you look like you're crying. They were actually physically just, and I started realizing that people were just a lot of emotionally disturbed people out there that just don't know that's what they were doing because that's what they knew to do.
Right.
They were attention seeking because that's what you do when you're hurting. You seek attention. And like you said with kids, I want to try and bring this in because trauma starts young. It doesn't start when you're in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s. It starts when you are in your teens or younger. So,
Younger. Yeah.
I mean, my parents got divorced when I was in kindergarten. Sorry, my parents
Oh.
split up when I was in kindergarten. They didn't get divorced when I was 26 years old. They
Yeah,
sat
but
in the
that
same table.
split
The
is
judge had to
so
separate them.
traumatic
But it is, yeah.
for a child, so traumatic, hugging little you, because it really is. And we do develop core trauma between 0 and 9 years old, and it does affect us for the rest of our lives. And it creates patterns and defense mechanisms, and it really does mold who we are. Humans aren't taught how to
No.
process their emotions. I just had
And the
this
worst part
conversation
is,
with my son yesterday. They should be teaching this stuff in school. We would
they
have a
should.
much healthier society if they did.
But the worst part about it is that these kids are dealing with, and the parents, if the parents do identify it, most don't, but if parents do identify it, they still don't know how to start that conversation. It's just as taboo as having the birds and bees talk. Actually, I think you worry more about saying to your kid, are you okay? My daughter watches SpongeBob all the time. And I read an article about how people with depression and anxiety watch SpongeBob a lot because the bright colors and high pitched sounds actually make your brain function at a higher frequency and it brings you out of those deep darks. So I started
Wow.
asking her, are you okay? What's going on? And I started asking, she started asking me why, and I told her, and I was like, you depressed right now? You have a bad day? You watching SpongeBob? You have a bad day? And it started becoming a joke between us, but it really was like a thing. When you start thinking about it, like it actually does. SpongeBob came out when I was in high school, and we literally, like idiots, we were driving around listening to that fucking theme song on a CD we burned at loudest. Yeah, some kids were driving through the ghetto, fuck the police. I'm like, who really gonna find them? I'm not listening.
I love it.
Yeah. I had some very broken friends growing up. But now that's the thing. A lot of those, I went to my high school reunion and I realized that everyone remembers me for my trauma. In high
Mm.
school, my sister died in a car accident my junior year.
Oh,
Mm.
And everyone remembered that, as they should. But after high school, a lot of us didn't talk. So when we came back to this reunion years later, 27 years later, freaking everyone's like, dude, your sister was, and everyone treated me like the kid whose sister died in high school. Not, hey, how's your life? Oh, you're married? You have kids? Like, I had to pull that conversation out. Their only way to talk to me was, I'm sorry that you lost your sister. 27 years later. So,
wow.
but then I started learning these people now are recently just starting to have kids. I had a kid 22 years ago. So guess what? They're my demographic too because they don't understand how to deal with kids. My kid has trauma that I know about and I helped him process that shit. But these guys have no clue. They are blind to it and I can help them. So I've been hitting up all of my Facebook groups from high school too. Hey guys, this book's going to help your kids. It's going to help you talk to your kids.
Yeah.
We could bring story time back because I know there's not a lot of parents out there reading books to their kids anymore. Not nearly as much as there should be.
Yeah. Or just
Kim
connecting
recently.
with them at all.
Yeah, Kim
Right?
pulls her kids. Kim is actually doing something very courageous and amazing. We haven't even talked about on any episodes yet, really, but she's homeschooling her kids. She pulled them out of school for a lot of
That's
those
smart.
reasons. We don't want our kids being raised by their peers. It's like Lord of the Flies. You know, we want to actually influence our kids more than the peers or teachers, and nothing against teachers. They're amazing teachers that save people's lives, but they're also really mediocre teachers, and they're also shitty teachers. And you're going to leave your children, your precious children, there for hours and hours a day. And for those of you that are listening and mad at me for saying that, hey, it's unapologetic uplift. That's okay with me if you're mad about it. I did not homeschool my kids. I really wanted to. And it's part of the reason why I got divorced. And I didn't want to have to put my kids through divorce, but we were not aligned, my first husband and I, in the way that we saw how we bring up children in the world. And it was the most important job I could ever imagine having. So back to just, I almost feel like emotional about what you're doing, John, because first of all, yes, acknowledging your sister dying, that is a massive trauma that I can't even comprehend. And also what I'm hearing, what I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard you say and yet you don't want to be defined by that trauma, because there's so much more to you. And maybe voltage character is a way for us to not put people in boxes, to not define people by one event, but to be open to who are you? How do you make me feel? How do I feel? And even feelings in general, especially for, I have to say, gender prejudice here, but men typically have a harder time expressing feelings. And it's because of the way society's set up. Men have often been a surrogate of violence and a protector. You don't have room or time to have your feelings. That is not okay anymore. Not that it should have ever been okay, but I want to thank you as you are. I'm sitting here watching, looking at you. You're a man. You're creating a book about how to contact feelings, connect with feelings, and be open to sharing that, looking at your shadow side, looking at how do we survive in this world? How are we human through a robot, which is ironic and beautiful. So I just want to thank you, because I really feel this is the perfect time to do this, and it's going to do so well. And I want to say it out loud, because Kim and I also like to manifest. We talk about that too, as corny as it is. But I just see this being a very important character at a very important time.
Yeah.
And if you think about what you just said, though, okay, men are the stigma. We always say that. It's a big thing lately. Men don't talk about health, but we're talking about a machine, a cold machine that has to learn about handling its emotions that it wasn't ready for. I mean, it literally is a metaphor for that statement right there.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you caught that.
Exactly. I'm glad you did it. And that's why, and
Me
it's
too.
easier, isn't it? Like it's easier. You don't go, oh, shoot, I'm outed. I'm a man who can't talk about my feelings, because it's this cute robot. So you get to be far enough removed to not be triggered by it, and yet see ways that I think that we can all start to get more human through this robot, which is it's just really cool. I'm all for it.
And aware, right? Like just the simple act of being aware of your feelings, being able to label them in itself is massive, because we live in this society where everybody is just go, 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 go. And everyone is just so disconnected and going through the motions. They don't know how they feel. They don't know if they're depressed. They don't know if they're anxious. They can just turn into these zombies. So just that awareness of being able to be like, wait a minute, how do I feel is so powerful.
Yeah. And I wrote animated series. I'm just manifesting that. I'm sure you've already thought of it.
I actually have Jester is my current animator. He learned how to animate on Procreate, and he has been sending me little animated GIFs of Bolt from all the pictures I've sent him. So we are working on something. He's got something in the background. He's like, I'm going to show you when I'm done. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust you.
And because I always define terms, when you say Jester, I'm just going to let everyone know that's a friend of yours who also I saw and met on the social media app Clapper. Just to give context to that, when you mention that, it's not a Jester somewhere out there in the world. This is a friend of yours.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, he is definitely a Jester. He is out there somewhere in the world. I have a lot of those. But no, his name is Mike. And Mike started off as a friend that I met on the internet. He actually moved out to New Jersey, stayed on my couch for about a year, got himself established out here, and now he's out here doing his thing and doing a lot better. So he's part of that. You said before, the community I build. Everywhere I go, I try to strive for that little bit of community. He was that little bit of community. In doing that, before writing the book and creating Bolt, I ran a stupid online karaoke show every Saturday night, but everyone flocked to it because the community I put behind that show, people didn't show up just to sing. They showed up to tell stories, to show talents. They just wanted to be there to interact with each other. And these are people who hated each other on a regular basis. But on Saturday night, from 8 p.m. Eastern until 3 in the morning, everyone was fucking friends. And it was really cool. Everyone loved that. And I burnt out on doing that. And I took that burnout and I put purpose into my book from that burnout as well, because, hosting a podcast can be exhausting sometimes. You edit your own stuff. You don't send it out to an outside source to edit and you just post it on your own. No, you're doing all the hard work yourself. I'm doing all the hard work myself too. And it gets exhausting. So the book became a utility for that as well.
Beautiful.
And just being an entrepreneur in general, Kim and I both are entrepreneurs, and she's
Yes.
an entrepreneur who has young children. I'm an empty nester entrepreneur, so I can't complain. But wow, what Kim goes through, we just have to give you massive acknowledgement, Kim, because you do all of that and you're an entrepreneur. It's a lot.
Yeah. I saw your vacation. I saw your vacation on your stories. And yeah, you do a lot. You're very active.
Yeah, we're explorers. That's what I call us. My kids and I.
You have to. The world is big. And if you spend too much time in one space, you're not going to see a lot of it.
That's right. We actually just booked our next vacation last night. We just got back and we booked our next one. We're going to Eastern Canada for a month for half of June, half of July to explore. We're going to explore a few provinces. So we're going to start in New Brunswick, and then we're going to go to Nova Scotia. Then we'll go back to New Brunswick, and then we'll go to Prince Edward Island. Then we'll go back to New Brunswick again. We have family in New Brunswick. So my mom is there, and actually my brother is moving there from Western Canada.
You have a staging ground too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So then after that the last time in New Brunswick, we will head home, and then heading home, we'll do Quebec as well.
I just applied for a new passport because mine's expired, and Rachel has to apply for hers as well, because one of our other friends from Clapper, I'm a hippie boss, Tara McKissock.
Yep.
So she told me about a event they do in Canada where they take books and they do readings live in the park during the spring. And she thought that my book would be great for that. So I said, I'll let you know when the book launches, because if they want, she's like, they'll do it, but they want you to bring copies and they want you to be there. So I'm down to, I've never traveled out. I mean, I've traveled outside the country with my wife. We went on our honeymoon to Bermuda, but I haven't been to Canada in so long I don't remember. So,
well, you'll have to let me know if you come, and we will have to meet up for sure.
Because Kim lives in Canada, so she comes to us live from Canada. Yeah,
I'm just
okay. I thought you were in the U.S.
No, I'm in Ontario, so I'm actually quite close to Tara. We're about 3 hours from one another. 3-hour drive. Yeah.
And I want to circle back to something that you said very quickly, and I saw Kim's face when you said it, and I felt a real this feeling of this is what I want people to hear. So I'm going to go back to it for a second and shine a light on something you said, John. You said that your friend stayed on your couch for a year and got well. And I just want to highlight that for a second and tell us, I'm sure it wasn't easy. I'm sure it wasn't even an easy decision, or maybe it was. But anyone listening, I feel like, why would you do that? Well, if someone's asking, like, why would you have someone live with you on the couch for a year? Did you plan it for a year? Did you think of, and those are all questions people would have that I can imagine, because I like to put myself in the shoes of our audience. But I personally think, I just want to say to you before you answer that, because I do want the answer to those questions. But the thing I want to say to you is thank you, because in my opinion, this is how we change the world. It's when it's not that we're distracted by what's on the news and talking about how this missile and that missile and what that's doing to that person. Meanwhile, what's happening right next door? What's happening with the person we can touch today, give a meal to, and maybe a shoulder massage and a hug, and walk outside and let them put their feet in the water? Where is that happening? Because to me, that's where the real change happens. And you did that. And you did say he's doing much better. So tell us, if you don't mind, how that transpired.
Without giving too much of his information, because he is a very private guy, we'll say that
please
he's in a better place. When I say he's in a better place, I mean, he's got his own place now. He's happy. He's doing good, but he is also a veteran. And when he moved out here for his own reasons, but things fell through. And I said, hey, crash my couch for a bit so you get set up. It took a little longer for him to get set up because life happens and mental health is a thing. And we all have just shit. Everyone was getting hit with stuff. So the main reason I did it was because I don't know the guy for Adam at this point, but we were co-hosts on Clapper doing a weekly show called The Real Stoners. We got stoned and we talked about movies and people liked it. But we became like brothers because of that, because we very much have different opinions on things. And we kind of Siskel and Ebert did it back and forth to throw a 1980s riff to it. Because we're both roughly the same age. He's about a year older than me. He's about an inch taller than me. He's weird like me. But here's the thing, okay? One of the things on every social media everywhere is that the Veterans Affairs Office, and this is my only political statement that I'll make, is that the Veterans Affairs Office falls short for veterans more often than not. There are more men and women who serve our country who take bullets and blown up for our freedoms, and it's not fucking okay that they get forgotten by the people that they swore to protect. So I promised myself that for him, I would be better than the VA. And to this day, he still struggles with that fucking place. But I am there for him wherever I can be. I may not be there for him financially, but if it's even just to answer a phone call, there is one soldier out there that I know will not be forgotten by somebody because the VA fucking sucks.
Yeah, that is so good that you do that, John, that you made that commitment and made a difference in someone's life and recognize, and back to it started because you create community,
Right.
which is what you're doing more than ever now with Voltage.
And I also just want to touch on helping one person. The trickle effect that has is massive.
Yeah. The butterfly effect is a beautiful theory that I love. The thought that the wind off a butterfly's wing could make a change so big anywhere in the world. And that's why I do what I do, because even if what I do pisses somebody off, it makes somebody happy.
It always will piss off somebody.
Yes. That's how you know you're doing it right.
That's right.
Yeah. And when we first started this podcast, we used to ask people, what is one thing that you'll never apologize for? Because we're Unapologetic Uplift. And we kind of dropped that in this new year. But I actually would like to ask you, what's one thing you would never apologize for? Because I think it'd be cool. I want to know what your answer is.
God, I used to hate how people always blame their spectrum of autism for the way they are. I'm starting to realize that maybe I'm on my own spectrum and I just kind of say things. I don't really think them out. And I didn't realize this. I mean, I realized it because everyone jokes when I say things online, whatever, I'm being myself. But now that I'm working back in public, I say things in a professional forum. Maybe you shouldn't. I mean, I had a girl walk up to me that works for me and Michael's, and she's like, John, where does this go? And it was something that I had put in the basket of things I don't know where it goes so many times. So she walks up and she's like, where do I put this? I'm like, I don't know. Find a customer, tell them to shove it up their ass. I really don't care. Just find a shelf and hide it. And then she laughed. I laughed. I walked away and realized that girl is 17 years old, and I probably should not have said that to a 17-year-old child. I probably wouldn't appreciate it so much as my 17-year-old child.
HR calls you in.
Yes.
So no filter, so unapologetic about being unapologetic, it sounds like.
Yeah, I even told my boss, okay, because ladies have very specific needs. And I'd say this from the standpoint of all of the toilets in our ladies' room, none of them were bolted to the floor. Now, I know that ladies are capable of hovering to pee, but I don't think that's something you should have to do, especially in the workplace, let alone if you're a customer. It's a safety concern. And I brought that to the company, and I cost them $30,000, say, to replace the entire floor. But
good for you, though, advocate for women. I love it.
yes, no, advocating for safety first. Ironically, it was in the men's room too, but like that's why it cost so much. It was all the floors. But the ladies' room is what I caught it because I was cleaning the bathroom and I was mopping the floor. It was funny because I could move the toilet out of the way to mop the floor and then put it back.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. I told my boss, I'm like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to fire me in the future. She goes, why? I'm like, I'm costing you guys a lot of money. But the good news is when you fire me, you're going to be in a much safer building.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did
Unfortunately, they had
people,
to fire me.
so Kim always likes to ask this, and I'm just, go ahead, Kim, what you always say about how to find him if we,
Oh, yeah. How can our audience find you and Bolt and this book? Tell us when people will be able to buy it.
So if you're close enough, you can get a copy as early as April 26th and April 27th because I will be launching a pre-launch sale at Super Jersey Comic Expo in Jackson, New Jersey. It is at
Okay.
a wonderful new venue they have. It's an inflatable dome, and we're going to be launching the book there, but the actual retail global launch will be around May 26th, 1 month
Awesome.
after.
I can't
Yes.
wait to get it.
me too. And so you're going to, but now the Kickstarter is still going on. And I know, so our podcast is evergreen. So everyone listening now where these dates have already passed, don't worry, you can still go buy a Bolt Voltage book and probably some Bolt Voltage merchandise. And hopefully by the time when you're hearing this in the future, you're also watching the Bolt Voltage animation series. So,
Yep.
but if you are watching where it's relevant timing wise, your Kickstarter ends. When can people jump in and give dollars to your Kickstarter?
They can start as soon as now, but the cutoff date for the actual 100% funding is May 3rd, no, May 12th at 10:53 p.m. because that's when I launched it. Literally, they're down to the
Wow.
minute.
Yeah,
They're down to the minute.
And so you need to be
that's
fully
intense.
funded, 100% funding by May 12th, 2025 at 10:53 p.m. Eastern time in order for
Correct.
you to get the money that people want to give you towards this project, right?
Yes, and we are currently, our goal is $3,700. We have raised $1,655. So that puts us just under 2,000 needed, I believe. Yeah, like 2,100 needed for the full funding. So between that and I have a couple more, I have a lot more posts going out about it. I have just recently amplified my social media presence to try to start getting some more people because my email list isn't that big yet, but my social following is. So relying on that currently.
Yeah. Well, keep tagging us as well because we're happy to share.
Absolutely.
And if you're listening to this prior to May 12th, 2025, go over to Kickstarter and anything helps.
Hey, and
And
also if you're listening to it after, feel free to go over to Kickstarter and just type in Volt Voltage. I might have a new campaign going for the next book. Anything's
Yeah.
possible,
that's
you know?
right. And before we close out, is there a little bit that you want to read to us from the book? Is there a little teaser you could give our audience? Do you have it there? I know I'm
I
putting you on the
could.
spot, but
No.
I just wanted people to hear it. It's beautifully written. And I did do a voiceover. It's on the Kickstarter. My voice, you'll all recognize,
Yes, it
is on the
is.
Kickstarter because I loved it and I read it right away. And I said, oh, because you had asked some friends and I was one of them if we wanted to lend our voices to narrate and the book a little bit as you're doing this, getting it out there. And I was happy to do it.
I actually have a page pulled out in case someone asks. It's from the middle of the
Here
book,
we,
so you guys get to see the
nice,
picture, and I'll read the words from the other side.
beautiful.
Awesome.
I love it. Okay.
With every
What?
thunderclap, Bolt shuddered. The reaction was involuntary, his joints tensing with each crash. This human behavior puzzled him. Why did he respond this way? He ran a diagnostic. No mechanical errors detected. Yet his circuits buzzed with something foreign, something uneasy. Moving cautiously through the arcade, past dust-covered cabinets and lifeless screens, Bolt's mind wandered. Had he ever worried about himself before? But now the thought crept in. What if something happened to him here? Who would know? Who would care? No one knew he existed in this moment. No one would miss him. The realization felt heavier than the storm raging outside. For the first time, Bolt wasn't just analyzing a space. He was searching, not for relics of the past, but for proof he wasn't alone.
I love that.
Me too. Me too.
And that is just one of 50 pages.
Yeah, and so relatable, right? Like we feel these emotions. Is there something wrong with me? Not just a
Right.
robot thing.
Yeah, no.
And that felt like
Now
that
available in
was,
human.
Yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
I would say that the overall feeling of that particular passage was self-awareness, was oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute, self-awareness. What's this? And
It's one of
I
my
feel
biggest
like,
struggles.
yeah, and
You're not
everyone,
alone.
please, no, you're not alone. And actually, to me, self-awareness is the gateway to emotional intelligence.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this book could be the gateway to emotional intelligence, just saying. Okay.
Yeah, for so
Well,
many.
that's the thing. It's the origin story of both, but hopefully it's like an emotional awakening for a lot of people.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Well, I am
So am
excited
I.
too. And thank you so much for being our guest on an Apologetic Uplift. And I'll let Kim do our little end.
Yeah, thank you so much for being with us today, John, and sharing Bolt with us. That's such an exciting journey that you're on. Can't wait to see how it all blows up and takes off. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do leave us a 5-star review, give us a comment, share us with a friend, and we will be back next Wednesday. See you then.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Unapologetic Uplift. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share the love and tell a friend about us, and give us a review.
Please don't miss a thing. Subscribe to this podcast and explore our sponsors, Objects with Purpose, Eco Luxury Candles, and Divine Activation membership.
Objects with Purpose is more than an eco-luxury candle brand. They are time travel devices in the form of a candle. Light the 3 wicks representing past, present, and future with the validation that you are exactly where you need to be. And if you're ready to raise your level of consciousness and step into your unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era, join the Divine Activation membership at cuttingties.coach/queen. With 3 tiers to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit to support your transformation.
Thank you for your listening and love. We'll see you next Wednesday on Unapologetic Uplift.
Welcome to the Divine Activation membership, a movement for women that are ready to raise their consciousness and step into their unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era.
With your heart, live authentically and become the magnet for all of your soul's desire.
Grow, connect with your heart and body, release unhealthy and unhelpful thought patterns, heal old wounds, create new neural pathways, and reprogram your subconscious with high-value beliefs so you can manifest the life you're meant for.
Ready to take a break from what's holding you back? Visit cuttingties.coach and join the Divine Activation membership today. Hey, unapologetic souls. I'm Ianthe Morrow, founder of Objects with Purpose, candles that touch the soul and the body. I've released a limited edition 3-wick candle collection in 3 fragrances inspired by a time in history. The Time Travel Collection, because scent evokes memory and lighting a candle can truly transport you to your highest self. Anytime.
Ianthe's candles are truly special, clean, safe, even for the body as a solid perfume or massage oil, and smell amazing. But what truly fills her heart is empowering others to be seen in their best light.
In 2020, when the 200 stores that sold my candles across the country closed their doors, I knew it was time to give back. I started guiding others to launch their own candle companies and design candles and fragrances for other brands as a way to share light in a dark time.
So why settle for just any conventional candle? Light the 3 wicks in each Objects with Purpose candle. You're supporting handmade in California, small batch, artisanal, eco-luxury, and treating yourself to a memory-evoking evolution. Visit ianthemorrow.com to discover your next favorite candle. Let the olfactory experience inspire cherished memories.